Good evening and welcome to Hello It's Us. Hello It's Us is dedicated to educating the general public about issues that are important to the disability community. We do this because we realize, and hope you will too, that those very same issues are important to all of us as members of society. Hello It's Us is brought to you through a collaboration between the University of Iowa Center for Disabilities and Development, Uptown Bill's Coffee Shop, and our good friends here at Public Access TV. My name is Mike Hoenig. I'm a program coordinator at the Center for Disabilities and Development, and I'm a co-host of Hello It's Us. And my other co-host is...
Hello, I am Keith Ruff, the other half of the show. I am a disability advocate and I'm writing a book.
Excellent. Well, those of you who tuned in last week saw Cherie Clark. We had a wonderful interview with her talking about disability advocacy and peer action disability support and the importance of training and her role in that training. And you're going to hear from Cherie again shortly this week. But we wanted to introduce you to another friend and coworker from the Cedar Rapids area. Cathy Hafsi is with us tonight and is going to be sharing some wisdom with us over the next few minutes. So Cathy, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, give us a little background about yourself and your little biographical information. If you're comfortable doing so, share a little bit either about your disability or what brings you into the disability conversation.
My name's Cathy, and I'm originally from Clinton, Iowa, and I live in Cedar Rapids. And basically, I'm a mother and grandmother. My daughters live in Los Angeles, and I have degrees in psychology. And when I moved back to Iowa from Los Angeles, I got involved with the PADS organization as something to fill my time and to get involved with. And from there, it kind of just grew into me becoming a disabilities activist. An advocate.
You can say activist here. It's okay. It's a safe place. So that's what generated your interest in disability advocacy and being a disability advocate?
I think from a parent with a child with a disability, I'm hoping that I kind of rub off on my daughter so she can also be her own self-advocate, a good self-advocate, and hopefully kind of follow in my footsteps at some point.
Great. Now, did I understand correctly that you actually provided disability services at one time that you...
Yes, I worked in a group home in Des Moines, Iowa, and then I became a house parent in Carlsbad, California, and Orange County, California.
And do you, if it's all right, if I ask you, if you're not comfortable, that's fine too, but do you identify yourself as being a person with a disability?
Yes, I have cerebral palsy.
Okay. So I'm curious to know, those of you who I've not talked about my own story a whole lot, but I've been blind since birth, and, one of the things that I wanted to do as a young adult was to try to get involved in groups that were interested in blindness issues, right? And so one of the groups that I got involved with was a local chapter of the Lions Club. And the Lions Club typically, they donate glasses and they do lots of things to support those of us who are blind and visually impaired, and they do a great job. But it was a bit of a shock for a lot of the members of the Lions Club to think about me as a member that wanted to contribute, because they were used to me as a person with a disability being the one to be the beneficiary of what they were trying to do. So I'm curious, Cathy, if you ever ran into situations where people treated you differently and couldn't quite get past the fact that, oh my gosh, she has a disability, but she's providing services to others. Did you ever run into any stereotypes or attitudinal challenges as a provider?
I did. When I worked briefly in a nursing home in Des Moines, I had my interview with the director of the group at the nursing home, and then a week later, he called me into his office and basically told me that he wanted me to quit my job because I wasn't forthcoming with my disability. And I'm like, you know, I walked in here, I had my interview with you, and I did disclose it on my job application that I had cerebral palsy. And so it was kind of frustrating to hear him tell me that I didn't disclose it when I can't hide it. You know, he saw me walk into his office, and you know, I've always been forthcoming and to tell people that I've, you know, have CP.
Wow. Did you ever find out the real story behind it?
No, I went, after I got done with his office, I went back to my old job and got my old job back.
I think I'd have done the same thing.
Yes.
I asked this question last week. What do you feel that this generation coming up, what should they concentrate on as disability advocates?
I think increasing job opportunities and education opportunities would be fantastic. And just learning how to be their own advocates, you know, especially after the age of 18, when mom and dad might not be around to always, you know, speak up for them.
Considering the age that you're in now, do you ever worry about this generation coming up being complacent?
Yes, I think that we've come into a generation that's had a lot of services, you know, available to them. But now that, you know, we see the services shrinking, and I'm afraid that some younger generations might not have the wherewithal to really speak up and say, you know, this is what we need and this is what we would like to see happen. And that they're just going to keep losing funding and losing activities and losing opportunities.
Yeah, you know, I think it gets really easy for us to take things for granted and people to take things for granted. And it's interesting to me to think about younger people with disabilities now. You know, anybody that's younger than 26, or I guess let me put it another way. People, 26 and under don't know about the world without the ADA. So, you know, just in terms of, you know, those of us that can remember back in the day when it passed and all the work that went into it, you know, before that, Section 504 and all these things that that opened up a lot of doors. And, but I still, gosh, you know, there's still so many things that need to be fixed and changed. And Cathy, one of the things that I wanted to, I've had the pleasure of getting to know you over the last couple of years, and one of the things that I learned a lot from you about, and I'd like you to share a bit with the audience, is you mentioned earlier that you're a mom and a grandma. And,
I am.
you know, we all know, of course, that, well, being sarcastic, people would say, well, gosh, how could a person with a disability be a parent? And I know that you've run into some situations when people have found out that you're a mom that have been probably tested your patience. Are there any that stand out for you that?
I think 2 medical providers, when I found out I was going to be a mother, a certain doctor just didn't feel that I could ever be a mom. And she wanted to make sure that I wasn't, but I wasn't having any of that. So I took it upon myself to leave the facility, and I became a mom, and I'm very proud of my daughter. She also has CP, and she has a good education, and she's done well.
Terrific. Man, it seems like such a basic human right, and yet you're having to educate at that level. That's not that long ago either. 20, how old is she?
She's 28.
So just pre-ADA, but you think
Yeah.
that's still relatively and almost in our generation.
I was a little more than shocked.
Did you feel that would have happened today?
I'm sorry.
Do you feel that would have happened today?
I hope not.
Okay.
I'm sure there are some physicians and providers that have stereotypical ideas of people with disabilities becoming parents.
Okay.
What are some kind of strategies? What are some techniques that you have used? I mean, you've shared some pretty personal kinds of things that a person could really get. I mean, it sounds like you are the type of person that takes matters into your own hands. In terms of advocating for yourself and getting your needs met. What are there particular strategies that you use? I mean, it seems like you always come out on top.
I have a good role model. My mother was a great advocate for me, and I just kind of modeled my advocacy after my mom. And I did that for myself and for my daughter. So we always made sure that, we had what we needed, and if there were any supports in the community that I could use for me and my daughter.
Had some practice.
That I did.
How did the school system attend to your needs, or did they cause more problems?
I really didn't have too many problems
Okay.
in grade school, junior high and high school. I think the one thing that there was a little bit of resistance, if I remember correctly, was me learning how to drive. And my mother advocated for me, and we found a company in Silvis, Illinois, that put hand controls in the simulator in the high school driver's ed class. And we had hand controls put in my mother's car, and I haven't stopped driving since.
Good
You guys
deal.
making some pretty long trips recently.
That we have. Cherie and I have been to Colorado twice in the last 6 months. They've been pretty adventurous.
Well, that's a perfect segue, because now, as I promised the viewers that we would hear again from Cherie. So I'd like to bring you back in now and ask, you two can respond how you choose, but I'd like to know how you met and got connected up.
Well, how we met. She came wandering into a PAD meeting one day and said, "Is this PAD?" I said, "Yes." I said, who invited you?" And she said the name, and I said, "Why, of course, come on in." And we started talking, and we just had so much in common just right away. We just had a lot in common. And I knew that she was struggling with something, and so once the meeting started, I kind of pulled her aside, and we went out in the hall and we talked for a while, and we kind of bonded. like two very good friends.
That's great. And you're still that's a great story. And I think one of the things that we talked a little bit in the first half of this program about peer support, and that's a perfect example of supporting one another. You had a lot of things in common. One of the things that I think happens in the disability world is we get all these terms going on about peer support, and it's a great thing. But what we sometimes fail to mention is that those peer support relationships can and very often do turn into friendships. Just, like everybody else, we as people with disabilities need and want friendship. And it sounds like that's happened in your case.
PADS is very well known for not only fostering those kinds of friendships, but also developing and making sure that those kinds of friendships are knitted in a way that work, and it's just so neat to see how it happens, and when it happens really, really well. It's just peer support is so important.
It certainly is. Can you think of some advocacy type of activities, or educational activities, disability related or not, as far as that goes, that you've been involved with together, either through PADS or through other organizations that you're involved with? That's either one of you. Yeah.
The ideas training, the building blocks of self-advocacy, which is so important, and getting out the disability vote, the voters forum that we hold during the election years.
Yeah.
And basically just community activities and social activities that we can just get together and not really have an agenda, but just to talk and just to catch up with each other's lives and see what's going on.
I think that's super important, to have those social times too, because disability advocacy is hard work, as you all three know, as we all four know.
Yeah.
And so if we don't take the time to celebrate and support one another, it kind of gets to be drudgery. At least that's my thought about it. So.
But when it works, you have to celebrate it. It's so much fun when it works.
Oh, it is. Is there one, Cherie, you mentioned earlier in the first half of our mini-series, some advocacy that you've all done with PADS through things like working with Walmart and working with Wendy's and some other locations. Is there one advocacy success, and this is open to either of you, whether it's PADS related or not, when we talk about celebrating, is there one, if you could point to one thing that said, we did that, or I did that, and it's making a difference? Can you?
Well, I think I know what you're getting at. And I think what we're talking about is the ADA celebration.
That's not where I was leading you, but if that's where you want to go, that's great. I was going to sneak that in, but if that's one of the things that you think is your highlight, that would be great. I know that I have an advocacy success in my life that will always stand out above all the others. And I was just, we have a few minutes that if either of you has one of those, and if it's the ADA celebration, that's great, but if it's something else, that's great too.
Well, the ADA celebration has brought together every year up in Cedar Rapids. We bring together about between 300 and 400 people with disabilities and family members and support people. And this year it's going to be July 23rd. If you need information, you can call me at 319-364-0037, and I will make sure that you get the flyers with the information. Again, my number, 319-364-0037. It's an awesome day with a lot going on, and we do it upright, and we would love to have you join us.
Are you promising some cool weather for the day, Cherie?
No. But I'll tell you what, we don't care in Cedar Rapids. We don't care if it's 110 degrees, Mike.
I know that from personal experience. I was there when it was about 110 degrees, and you still had the same turnout that you would have had, I think, if it had been cooler.
And last year we had a very hot day, but it was clear.
It's so much fun. The ADA celebration is so much fun.
Okay, either one of you, Cathy or Cherie, over the years, have you seen the tone of the celebration change a little as we're making progress towards so-called complete independence? Have you seen any change in tone or attitude towards disability?
Oh, I think so. I think so. Just in being at the ballpark, we are much more accepted at the ballpark.
I think people are getting used to seeing us out and about, and that's so important that people see us involved in the community, doing things and spending time with family and friends and volunteering and just being visible. I think that it will open many more opportunities for future generations if we can keep that ball rolling and keep visible and keep our voices being heard.
3 minutes.
I think that's both of those are really important comments. I happen to be a huge baseball fan, and I can remember back in the day going and, people, you'd kind of tell people, why so-and-so, why would he go to a ball game? And, it may sound like a simple message that, Cherie, when you said that about people are accepting us at the ballpark more, I think that's really a profound statement, because I think that if they're accepting us at the ballpark, and as you said, Cathy, they're seeing us out volunteering and doing things, I think that's that's what the ADA intended to happen. That we're not just out there as recipients of services or beneficiaries of others' good works. We're out there living our lives just like everyone else. And from what I know of both of you and from what you've shared on these last 2 episodes of Hello, It's Us, I think that you share that opinion. It's all about living our lives like everybody else does.
And I think it's better visibility. I think we're more in the public now than ever before. So we're becoming a little more accepted.
Are there any, we are coming to the end of our time here. Are there any last brief thoughts that either of you would like to impart to our audience in terms of just disability advocacy and messages of encouragement that you would pass on?
I would say find your voice and use it. Because
Yeah.
if you don't use your voice, then you are going to lose the ability to stand up for yourself and get the services and your needs met.
Excellent. Excellent advice. Cherie, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I really think that we need to get younger people involved. I'm really concerned that we're not going to be able to have younger people seeing the changes that they want to see in their lifetime. If they don't get involved today,
Yep.
and if they don't move forward now to articulate what they want 20 years from now, they're just not going to have a clue
Yeah.
as to know what they want then.
Yep, I think that getting the voice out is so critical. I'm sorry to say that we're out of time again this week. The time has just flown by. I want to thank both Cathy and Cherie for joining us and for sharing your wisdom with us and with our audience. We've had a great time being with both of you. I want to say thanks also to our audience for viewing, and I wish you all a great week.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Have a good week out there. Stay cool. Bye now.